Hello, friends in the legislature. This is Nathan Winters from the Wyoming Family Alliance. I know that we're nearing the crossover, the halfway point in the legislative session. I'm so thankful for all of the hard work you have done to this point. For many of you, I've watched as you have worked till late in the evening after having come in very early in the morning to try to get all of the work done in committees at the beginning and then working through the budget all the way till one night, I believe, close to 10:30. And so for that, when you think about it, the physical, emotional, and even spiritual fatigue that can set in here can become overwhelming. Sometimes it feels as though you can move forward just through the adrenaline of the first couple of weeks. But now things are setting in, and fatigue sets in with it, even as so many good things are happening. I want to tell you just a quick story from the Word of God that I hope will be a benefit to you as you walk through the next few weeks. We find it in the book of 1 Kings, and one of the most famous Jewish people that have ever lived, a man by the name of Elijah. Elijah had been working for years to see the restoration of his beloved nation, the northern kingdom of Israel. What had happened is there was, through the marriage alliance of Ahab, the king, and Jezebel, the queen, there had been a concerted effort by nobility at that time to drag the northern kingdom of Israel away from who they had been called to be. At one point, his work comes down to a massive showdown. It happened there on the slopes of Mount Carmel. It's right above the port city of Haifa in northern Israel, at least along the coast. I've been right there at the place where this event happened. Elijah calls to people from all over Israel to come and watch as he's trying to turn their hearts back toward God, even as many others are fighting on behalf of the god Baal and Asherah. And there, as everyone gathered to watch, it's interesting that Elijah is facing off against hundreds of people in opposition. And the crowds that gather around, the scriptures use this very interesting phrase, they answered him not a word. They were silently watching. It was easy for him to feel alone in that moment. Well, just as they watched Elijah stand for truth, God answered that, and a glorious victory was won that day. But in the following days, Elijah ran from Mount Carmel, right in front of, by the way, a place called Tel Megiddo, where I've stood and looked at the trail that would have been the common trail between there and the royal city of Samaria. He runs all the way to Samaria in almost a marathon. And while he's there, he testifies of what happened on the slopes of Mount Carmel. Well, the next day, the report comes that the queen wanted his life. And even after this phenomenal victory, what does Elijah do? Well, he doesn't respond in faith. The scriptures tell us that he runs from Samaria and he runs all the way down to the city of Beersheba. Now, you can even see that city today. It's a larger city today than it was back then. But it's almost as far south as you can go in Israel and actually to the south of Judah, the southern kingdom of Judah. Then the scriptures tell us that he left behind the people who were traveling with him and he continued on a day's journey into the wilderness. After great victory, he's fatigued. After great victory, we find him in a sense of defeat in his life. And really much of it can be attributed to fatigue. Well, there in the story, he lies down under a broom tree. And the Lord asks him a question, Elijah, what are you doing here? And Elijah doesn't answer anything, and then God sends an angel to nourish him. Eventually, he continues on till he reaches a cave, and there, while in the cave, God calls out to him again, Elijah, what are you doing here? Eventually, Elijah says, Lord, I've done everything you've called me to do, and I alone am the one trying to fight. God's answer to him was this, Elijah, there are 7,000 that haven't bowed their knee to Baal. Now, why do I bring this story up in a legislative context? For many of you, you have been hammered by concentrated efforts, by those who are trying to fatigue you in all of the good that you are doing in this moment, and you're doing a great job. And because of the outside noise constantly pounding against you and the emails that stack up in your computer, it's easy to become a person that feels isolated and worrying that all that you're doing is actually not working. Well, know this. Conservatives often feel that way. There's often pressure that comes from outside, from those who don't like the idea of curbing the overgrowth of government and standing up for the rights of the people, even as they have to start to push back against the overreach of government. That's the way it's felt most times. But know this, God still sees you. God knows where you are. And like Elijah had to be reminded, there are thousands that are standing with you. You are not alone. I want you to know that from Wyoming Family Alliance. I want you to know that from the heart of your individual districts. There are people that are lifting you up in prayer. Just know that you need to continue to move forward in faith. Thanks again. This is Nathan Winters at the Wyoming Family Alliance.